व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी यशोदनन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी यशोदनन्दना व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरवनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी यशोदना व्रजजनरञ्जना यमुनातीरवनचारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज हरि गोपीजन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी युगधर्म श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की, सावेत गौर भक्त वृंद की। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 23, Maharaj Pruthus Going Back Home. Text number 32. Brahmano Brahma Varchasi Rajanyo Jagatipati Vaishyapatan Vitpatishat Shudra Sattamatam Yat. Brahmano Brahma Varchasvi Rajanyo Jagatipati Vaishyapatan Vitpatishat Shudra Sattamatam Yat. Brahmano Brahma Varchasvi Rajanyo Jagatipati Vaishyapatan Vitpatishat Shudra Sattamatam Yat. Any Matajis? Brahmana, the Brahmanas, Brahma Varchasvi, one who has attained the power of spiritual success. Rajanya, the royal order. Jagati Pati, the king of the world. Vaishya, the mercantile class of men. Patan, by reading. Vitpatihi, becomes master of animals. Syat, becomes. Shudra, the laborer class of men. Sattamattam, the position of a great devotee. Yat, attains. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If one hears of the characteristics of Prithu Maharaj and is a Brahmana, he becomes perfectly qualified with Brahmanical powers. If he is a Kshatriya, he becomes a king of the world. If he is a Vaishya, he becomes the master of other Vaishyas and many animals. And if he is a Shudra, he becomes the topmost devotee. Purport. In Srimad Bhagavatam, it is recommended that one should become a devotee regardless of one's condition. Whether one is without desire, akama, or with desire, sakama, or whether one desires liberation, moksha kama. He is advised to worship the Supreme Lord and execute devotional service unto Him. By doing so, one attains all perfection in any field of life. The process of devotional service, especially hearing and chanting, is so powerful that it can bring a person to the perfectional stage. In this verse, Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras are mentioned. But here it should be understood that that reference is to the Brahmana who is born in a Brahmanical family, the Kshatriya who is born in a Kshatriya family, the Vaishya who is born in a Vaishya family, the Shudra in a Shudra family. But whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya or Shudra, he can attain perfection simply by hearing and chanting. To take birth in a family of Brahmanas is not the ultimate finishing touch. One must have the power of a Brahmana, which is called Brahma Tejas. Similarly, taking birth in a royal family is not the all in all. One must possess the power to rule the world. Similarly, taking birth as a Vaishya is not all. One must possess hundreds or thousands of animals, specifically cows, and rule over other Vaishyas as Nanda Maharaj did in Vrindavan. Nanda Maharaj was a Vaishya who possessed 900,000 cows and ruled over many cowherd men and boys. A person who is born in a Shudra family can become greater than a Brahmana simply by accepting devotional service and giving oral reception to the pastimes of the Lord and His devotees. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Nitinamane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatare Shatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gaurasve Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha कृपा सिंधुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पंगुल्लंघयते गिरिं यत्कृपः तमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरून् दीनतारिणाम्। Hare Krishna. So before I start speaking, I seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, and especially His Grace Anand Mahaprabhu. So here in this section, we are hearing the benefits of hearing this pastimes of Maharaj Prithu. So Maharaj Prithu is such a powerful personality, Shaktavesh avatar. He is a ruling potency of the Lord, and he has taught by his example how one should be a Raja Rishi, perfectly taking care of the citizens, the kingdom, as per the principles given in the scriptures. So here in this particular verse, the benefits of hearing this pastime is being mentioned. So the scriptures, to attract the conditioned souls, sometimes they may give some material benefits. So here it appears that those who hear this pastime, and according to whatever caste they are, so they are going to get accordingly different powers, or attain some position, attain some money or possessions, like that. So that's why in Srimad Bhagavatam, it is, although it is Amala Puran, it's meant for actually relishing, it's meant to be relished by the pure devotees. But even those who are conditioned souls, Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan Shri Shri Jagannath Baldev Subhadra Maya Ki Jai. So even if somebody is a conditioned soul, and if he comes in touch with Srimad Bhagavatam and reads it, then definitely he is going to get benefited. So that's why Prabhupada is mentioning that the Srimad Bhagavatam is recommended for everyone, regardless of one's condition. So whether one is akama, without any desires, or sakama, with desires, or moksha kama. So just now I was hearing that Prabhupada was telling that actually there are karma kandis, who want to go to heavenly planets. Then there are yogis, they want some siddhis. Jnanis, they want to merge in Brahman effulgence. So like that, there are different types of people who want different kinds of destinations or possessions. So no matter who it is, or no matter what desire one may have, but if one worships the Supreme Lord, akama sarva kamava moksha kama udaradi tivrena bhakti yogena yajeta purusha param. So whatever desire one may have, If one intensely practices Krishna consciousness, no, he will attain the supreme perfection. He will ultimately go back home, back to Godhead. But the criteria is Tivrena Bhakti Yogena. The devotional service has to be executed sincerely, intensely. So we see the example of Dhruv Maharaj. So Dhruv Maharaj, he had lot of, he had a very great material desire. He wanted to attain a kingdom greater than his great grandfather Brahma also, which was almost impossible. So, because generally there is no other planet greater than Brahma Loka. So, it's a very great material desire. So, we know that how Mother Suniti rightly guided him to worship Lord Vishnu. So, and then eventually even Narada Muni guides him to worship Lord Vishnu. And we know how within 6 months Dhruv Maharaj attained perfection. But then he got darshan of the Lord and he got completely purified also. So, how do we know that he has got purified? So, actually, one thing is that when Lord gave darshan and touched his head, he had all ecstatic symptoms, and then actually he was not praying for any material benedictions. He was actually repenting for his material benedictions which he had asked in the past. He was saying that, Lord, I was looking for actually broken pieces of glasses, but you have given me the transcendental gem of devotional service and your darshan. And then also, after going back to the kingdom where he was received by Uttanapad and all the citizens, so although he was heavily chastised by Suruchi in the past, when he met Suruchi and Uttam, he embraced them and he had been very kind. He forgave them. He completely forgot their that Suruchi's chastisement. So he was not envious towards them. So this shows that how Dhruv Maharaj got transformed, right? So, but then in those 6 months, what he did is important, right? So in that 6 months, we know that how every month he gradually reduced his material needs and increased his spiritual needs or spiritual intensity. So, Vishaya Vinivartante Niraharasya Dehina Rasavarjam Rasopesya Param Drishtva Nivartate. So, when you develop a higher taste, then automatically, naturally you give up the lower taste of this world. Right? So, like if you have some nice food item you like, then naturally you may not take other items which are not so liked by you, right? So same way, when you get that higher taste in Krishna consciousness, one naturally gives up the lower taste of this world. And Prabhupada says the symptom of spiritual advancement is that bhakti pareshanubhaver viraktir anyatrascha. That one has to naturally develop detachment for the sense gratification of this world. So we see that Dhruv Maharaj, he was chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and also he was worshipping the deity, and he was actually performing the austerity of eating very frugally, very, very less, hardly anything, right? And we know that gradually he gave up even eating the fruits and even the dry leaves, and then eventually water, and finally even air. So I heard in one lecture that he felt that even breathing air he felt as sense gratification. So sometimes we perform Ekadashi like yesterday. Sometimes we perform Nirjal or whatever, some austerity, and sometimes we feel very proud that no, I am performing this austerity and no others are not so much performing. So then we may become proud about not eating for a few times. But then Dhruva Maharaj considered even breathing as sense gratification. Somebody may say that how can he exist without breathing? But Lord can, ultimately it's the Lord who gives life. And the soul, which is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, that is the source of life. Right? So the Lord, if He wants, He can keep anyone alive even without air. And we know that because of His intense devotional service, how even the three worlds, all the demigods, everyone, they were experiencing breathlessness. So Lord want to indicate actually the power of devotional service, pure devotional service rendered by Dhruva Maharaj. He wanted to actually glorify Dhruva Maharaj, that with a single person's devotional service, Prabhupada actually mentions in that purport, if even one devotee performs intense devotional service, everyone in the three worlds can get benefited. The example is Dhruva Maharaj. Means even they could experience the intensity of his devotional service. So, and then finally, as the demigods requested Lord, so Lord comes and he blesses Dhruva Maharaj. So, we also in our spiritual life, we also have this, sakama, means some material desires. So we also render devotional service with this material desires. But only when we intensely practice Krishna consciousness, this material desires will be removed. Otherwise, it will still remain. So, pure devotional service means anyabhilashita shunyam gnana karmadhanavritam anukulyena krishnaalushilanam bhaktiruttama. It should be free from any sort of material desires, either for liberation or for any siddhis. No. So, Prabhupada was mentioning that these are all kama, these are all lusty desires, either for gross or subtle desires for their own selfish enjoyment. So, the process is hearing and chanting. So, Prabhupada is mentioning it is so powerful that it can bring a person to perfectional stage. So, Srila Prabhupada, he was 70-year-old, and he had hardly any money, Lakshmi, or he had hardly had any manpower to help him when he went to West. Now, in this world, when anyone wants to start any project or go to any place and start any business also, he'll make sure that he has some manpower, he has at least otherwise some money, somebody to assist him. So, after having all that, he will start his endeavors. Right? But Prabhupada hardly had anything with him. But then he had faith. What was his faith? That I have Krishna with me in the form of holy name and Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? Otherwise, how can such an old man with hardly anything, how can he even go cross so many oceans and go to such a country which is completely devoid of any knowledge of Krishna consciousness, right? So his faith was in the power of holy name and Srimad Bhagavatam, in the order of his spiritual master. right? That if I just present this Krishna consciousness as it is to the people of the Western world, they'll be changed. So that's why in his song on the Jaladuta, the prayers which he offered, we see there Prabhupada actually mentions all these verses in the first canto, second chapter. Shrunatam Swata Krishna, all that he quotes in that. So basically, there also he is glorifying or telling the power of hearing chanting and the benefits of hearing and chanting. So Prabhupada had so much faith in this process, that's why he was successful. He understood that no matter who it is, as Bhagavatam mentions, Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Sambhaya Vanakashadaya Enecha Papa Yadapashraya Shuddhanti Tasmai Prabha Vishnave Namaha. No matter what sinful race one may come from, but if he sincerely worships Lord Vishnu, surely he will be Shuddhanti, he will be purified of all those sinful reactions. So Prabhupada had that faith, and he has proved to the world that this knowledge of Krishna consciousness is universally applicable for everyone. And that if you simply present the philosophy as it is, as per the parampara, according to time, place, circumstance, and if you make the people practice this process of hearing and chanting, no matter who it is, they'll get transformed. So this is a proof. Actually, sometimes when people ask, what is a proof that God exists? So we can tell this is a proof. Otherwise, how can people from such a sinful background change, who had no awareness of Krishna or Rama or Bhagavad Gita, who are completely addicted to bad habits? How can they change? We can ask them, you can show us, if you say that, means if you also change them, then we will accept, right? But they cannot change them, right? But Prabhupada has shown, he just presented the philosophy as it is, as he heard from his spiritual master, according to time, place, circumstances. And we see that how so many people, millions of people all over the world got changed. So when Indians actually saw all these Westerners, when they came back to India and they were hearing and chanting, performing Harinam Sankirtan, they were shocked to see that how these Westerners who are completely unaware of this knowledge and practices, how come they are wearing dhoti kurta and men wearing dhoti kurta, women wearing saris and following the Vedic culture, chanting the holy names, studying scriptures and also speaking Bhagavad Gita so fluently, the philosophy. So they were shocked to see that even these Westerners are transformed. So that's why seeing them, many Indians also started practicing Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada had that faith. So our preaching also will be successful to the degree we have faith in this process of hearing and chanting in the association of devotees. So if we introduce anyone, no matter what background he may come from, if we introduce them to this process and make them hear and chant in the association of devotees, we see that even people who are addicted to a lot of bad habits, or even our own life, we can see how we were in the past, but by the mercy of Lord and His devotees, by engaging in this process, we got transformed. So, having that faith is very, very important. And we see another example of Diti also. she, after her sons Hiranyakashipu were killed, she was very angry on Indra, thinking that he is the cause of, ultimately he is the cause of killing. So she wanted to produce children who would actually destroy Indra. So Kashyap Muni gave the Pumshavana Vrat process. Actually, she very sincerely followed that, right? And then we know that ultimately, because of sincerely following that, I think almost for 1 year or so, she gets purified. And the children who were born were actually devotees of Lord. So, in both the cases of Dhruv Maharaj or this Diti, we see that because they sincerely executed the process, that's why they got the results. So now, when we also practice Krishna consciousness, it is important that we also sincerely follow the process. So the process will work, but we have to be sincere. So it is said that sincerity means to execute the instructions as it is. Once Krishna was telling that what is seriousness and what is sincerity. Sincerity means you execute the instructions as it is given by the superiors. And seriousness means with a sense of urgency. So both are required in Krishna consciousness. So Dhruv Maharaj had that sincerity and seriousness in his practice. So we may not be able to imitate Dhruv Maharaj because we don't have so much intensity, and also we should not imitate. We like great souls like Dhruva and or the Goswamis, Prabhupada says, we imitate them, we may die. Because we cannot perform such intense austerities like them. Like when this fourth canto was released, so in some of the temples those days, so devotees also started performing intense austerities, eating only once, something like that. So when Prabhupada came to know, he said, actually you need not perform so much austerity. But the main thing is to increase devotional service, the devotional activities. Spending more time in the core devotional activities. So that is how we develop higher taste. So because when we develop that higher taste, then automatically we will develop detachment from the needs of the body and mind. So actually, the body and mind have certain needs, but also the soul also has needs, which is to love and serve Krishna. So, but generally conditioned souls are completely unaware of the spiritual need. They are only aware of the material needs. Okay? But as devotees we should understand that the soul is hankering from so many lifetimes. It is actually hungry for Krishna from so many lifetimes. So we have to actually fulfill that needs of the soul by engaging in devotional service. Then only it will be satisfied. Okay? So to the degree we fulfill that hunger of the soul, actually to that degree we will be detached from the needs of the body and mind. Because if we are absorbed in devotional service, then we become oblivious to the needs of the body and mind. Actually, it is even applicable even in material world. Like Prabhupada says, somebody is absorbed in his material duties, he becomes detached from his bodily needs also. He gives the example of businessmen. Sometimes they have so much greed to increase their business. So, Prabhupada says they sleep only 4 hours. And or sometimes a student, we see that he has a great greed to get a good seat in some IIT or some college like that. We see that they also sleep very less, eat very less, study so much. So we see that even for material goals, to achieve material goals, if some people absorb themselves in material activities, even they are able to become detached from the sense gratification, right? But the problem is they will not attain spiritual world. In the sense, only by that austerity they will attain their material goals. They will not get no spiritual. They will not achieve spiritual goals, right? But then, if one is absorbed in Krishna consciousness, so naturally you become detached from sense gratification, and also you will attain spiritual world. So that's the difference. So better we absorb ourselves in Krishna consciousness, because you get ultimate benefit of going back home, back to Godhead. So to be absorbed in devotional service, we have to understand first of all the value of devotional service, and avoid all the distractions. So to the degree we understand the value of something, we also naturally avoid their distractions, whatever may come, right? Like a student who is understanding the value of exam, to the degree he understands the value, he will avoid all those distractions, whatever may come on his path. So same way, many times we perform devotional service, but we don't understand the value, or we don't take it so seriously. We take it quite casually. So actually, a person who gets something very easily, he doesn't understand the value or take it so seriously. But a person who gets something after a lot of hard work and also with great endeavor, so generally he is very careful. Like a person who worked hard and earned money, he will be very careful in spending the money. But his son, who is born with silver spoon, so he may not be aware of how he got that money and all, and we may no, they may very easily squander all that money, waste the money. So in a similar way, actually, when we get this devotional service, the opportunity to render devotional service, actually by mercy of Srila Prabhupada and all the Parampara, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are getting this opportunity very, very easily. Actually, in the past, we see that for any of the devotional activities, it was not easy to get that opportunity. Like chanting, we see in the pastime of Ramanacharya. In order to receive the holy name, he had to endeavor so much, right? We'll not go into details. And we see that Rupa and Sanatan, right? Just because they were working for lechas, they were not allowed to come into temple only, right? And they were also feeling completely disqualified, unqualified, right? Now when we work in this material world, knowingly, unknowingly, we are also might have worked for lechas, yavanas in that sense, right? So, but then we are being allowed to have darshan of the Lord, right? And then we see that the past scriptures were allowed to be read only by Brahmanas who were really qualified. But in Kali Yuga, nobody is qualified. Kalo Shudra Sambhava, everybody is a Shudra. But still, we are so fortunate that we are allowed to study the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam or even Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is like PhD in the spiritual knowledge, right? So if you take any of the spiritual activities, even cleaning the temple, Prabhupada says, Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevimanam. Lakshmi, millions of Lakshmis, they are trying to clean in the spiritual world to please the Lord, right? So we are getting that similar opportunity like Lakshmi Devi, right, to clean the temple. So each and every activity, if you see, even like if you see getting the prasadam, Mahaprasad of the Lord, we know that pastime of where Lord Shiva gets a small grain of Mahaprasad and he dances in ecstasy. And then Mother Parvati, she could not get, and she performed so much austerity just to get prasad. Right? And then we know that how later on Lord benedicts her to become, to get the remnants of Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri. But like that, if you take any of the pastimes, means any of the items of devotional service, actually if we see that we are not qualified, but then it's the mercy of the acharyas like Srila Prabhupada that they have given us this opportunity. So Prabhupada was asked, what is our qualification that we are given this opportunity to render devotional service? Prabhupada said, you had no qualification. I gave you the qualification. So actually that is a fact. We have no qualification. So we should be very grateful. When a beggar gets 10 crores, right? Right? He'll be grateful, right? He is supposed to be grateful. So our getting the opportunity is much more than that. We cannot even calculate or value this devotional service. It is incomparable. It is eternal, transcendental gift. So what we are and what we are given, if you compare, right? We have this material body with, made with bones and flesh and stool, urine, all horrible substances, and we are rendering devotional service to the transcendental Lord, who is Sachidananda, right? So there is no comparison only, right? So one should be very, very grateful to the Supreme Lord and His devotees for allowing us or giving us this opportunity, because only when we are grateful for this opportunity we can absorb the mercy which is coming. If we are not grateful, if we are not valuing what we are getting, it will never enter our heart. And we may say that, oh, I am chanting for so many years, but why it is not changing my heart, or why still material desires are there? Because we may not be so grateful, and we may not be so seriously practicing. We may not be so much valuing this gift of Krishna consciousness. So it is very important for us to understand this and practice sincerely. So today is also Rukmini Dwadashi, the appearance of Rukmini Devi. So we also interestingly hear that she also has attained perfection or developed love for Krishna by hearing and chanting the glories of Lord. She never saw Krishna physically, but she used to hear from Narada Muni and other sages the glories of Krishna when they would visit her palace. And she attained so much love for Krishna, right? That we know the pastime how when his brother Rukmi wanted her to be married with Shishupal, so she was willing to even die rather than getting married with Shishupal. So we see in that pastime that how she developed so much love for Krishna just by hearing. So the Rukmini Devi, she is compared with the living entity, and Shishupal and all others who wanted to take her away are compared with Maya. And so when the living entity very strongly is determined to actually marry Krishna, marry Krishna means to take shelter of Krishna. We are all Prakriti, and the only Purusha is Krishna, right? So ultimately everybody has to be married with Krishna. So when we want to enjoy in this material world, we get bound. But when the living entity shows his determination that I want only Krishna, I don't want anything else of this world. And um, the Brahmana is like the representative, through whom representative of Krishna. So when a living entity shows that sincere desire, okay, so then the spiritual master recommends us to Krishna. Okay, this conditioned soul wants only your shelter, so please give shelter. Then Krishna will rescue us from this material world. But we have to show that determination. So just like Rukmini was severely tested by his brother and so many kings, it was literally impossible for Rukmini to come out of that problem. Right? And Krishna was so far away in Dwarka, and for her to get married to Krishna was almost like impossible. There was so much armies and Shishupal and everybody was against her. Right? So, but then even until the last moment, she was not giving up. Right? In fact, she wanted to actually leave this world without Krishna's association. She was so determined. So unless the conditioned soul shows that determination, that at any cost I want only Krishna, I don't want anything else of this world. Right? Maya may try to allure us with so many allurements, trying to pull us here and there, trying to distract us from our goal of attaining Krishna. But then if we show our determination, sincerity to Krishna, then Krishna will surely rescue all of us from this material existence. But how to develop that intense determination towards the Lord? The process is hearing and chanting. So because unless we hear and chant the glories of the Lord regularly with sincerity, we will not be able to develop that love for the Lord. And without developing the love for the Lord, we cannot show that determination. So we can pray to Mother Rukmini that may we also develop that determination in serving the Supreme Lord, and may we also develop taste for hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, which is the only way to, especially in this Kali Yuga, Prabhupada mentions all other processes are difficult for common people, but this process of hearing and chanting among the Navabhida Bhakti is most easy. Anybody from any walk of life can actually perform this process of hearing and chanting. So we need to take this process very, very seriously to our heart and practice. So Prabhupada also established Rukmini Dwarkadish in Los Angeles. Right? She is an expansion of Srimati Radharani Rukmini. So she is teaching all of us how we should also surrender to Krishna. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Samveda Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai.